Page 23, Santa Baby. 4/4 times, got one sharp. It's either in G major or E minor. Well, let's take a look. If you look at the bottom of page 25, the last measure, the last chord is here. I'm guessing that's G major. Kind of sounds like G major. Let's take this one hand at a time. At the beginning, the chords 1 3 5, 1 3 5, 1 3 5. I do a 2 4 5 on a half note. Fingering you use is up to you. They're suggesting this. I typically would do a 2 here, and then here I'd do a 1 2 4 on the C E A, the second measure. It's a personal thing. Their fingering is fine if you want to use it. And then you do that again. And then these eighth notes. The melody's the top one. Play it as legato as you can. I know the pedal's going to be used, but we make the fingers do the work. It's 1 and 2. Now here you gotta kind of come up and let the pedal help you out. This isn't piano music, this is singing music. We'll do what we can. Second line, last measure. Now they're saying 5 again. That's okay, but I don't like using fifth finger twice like that. And we don't need to. So I can, on that measure, on those here, I use fourth finger and thumb on the E, and then crossover with 2 and 3. I connect it all. Just fine. And then a 1 5. So let's go back. Second line, second measure, and look at the rhythm. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and I'm going to finger it the same on every time we see this pattern. This last measure of the second line here, I'm going to use 4 on that. And then I'm going to cross over, because it happens all over the place. So I'm just going to keep using it. I don't want to point it out every time, but that's what I'm going to do. Third line, last measure, and 2, and... Now here it's easier, it's a phrase. You're going to lift up for the phrase. The last line is here, 4, 5. And this happens in other places too. It's important that you do this. And then you hold that G down as you play these, and then you can lift it up. And these chords are softer because the melody is here. We want to hear that. Page 24, it starts out the same. Let's go down to the third line. Last measure, you're here. They say 1 5. You can do 2 5 if you want, and use third finger on the F sharp, and then a 1 there. And if you don't want to use the thumb on the D sharp coming up, you got to use third finger on that F. Here, and then fourth finger. That is a D, F sharp, C sharp. And then I would do a 4 5. Page 25, 1 and 2. You can use the second finger on C sharp if you want to. But then use the third finger on that E, that last note in that measure, if you're going to use second finger on C sharp. Otherwise, use their fingering, it's fine. I do a third finger here, but you can use second, because I do this 2 3 5, and then a 1 2 4, and then a 1 2 5, and then a 2. The second line, first measure, is 1 4, and then a 1 3 5. I'm just here. Go back to the last measure of the first line. It's here, the top note. That's all. That's the melody. That's what I'm after, and that's why I'm fingering it. That's all. And then the rest of it's pretty much the same of what you've had. Left hand. Keep the left hand soft. The left hand's got some interesting things going on. At the beginning, at page 23, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, and then a second finger. You do that some more, and then you got a bunch of quarter notes. On page 24, third line down, you're starting out the same way you've been doing. Then here, and then 5-1. It's okay. Forced to do that at this point. Use thumb on that G sharp. And on the last measure you can use 2-3 if you want. Come down. And so forth. And the rest of it's pretty much the same. At the bottom of page 25 in the last measure, you're here. I do a 2-3, and then here, and the last note has an 8 VA under it, so you got to go down here for that. Then you attempt to put the hands together. If you have to, forget the rhythm, because the G's tied. Take it as slow as you got to take it. I'm taking it pretty fast as a first run through, but this isn't my first run through, so I take it a little quicker. Oh. It's rather repetitious. You're going to get that stuff on pages 24 and 25 quite a bit. Let's go over to page 24, third line down. You're here. Now that sounds weird, but that's what's written. This is the last two beats of the third line last measure. You have an F sharp, an A, an E, and a... That's it. It's their fault. I didn't do it. So again, you got that. Notice the left hand there, the second measure, or the second line on page 25. First measure, it's here, 2-1. So you can do that. You can do a 1-2 if you can reach that, if your hand's big enough. But I prefer their fingering; it's better. And then the rest of it's pretty much the same. Work it out really, really slowly and get that. Forget the dynamics for a while. Get to know the piece, and then you can add the dynamics after you get to know the piece. You got to feel these dynamics. When you get louder and softer, and they're only suggestions. You can alter them if you want. Do your own dynamics. And how do you feel it should go? So at the top of page 23, there's a note there by the tempo marking of 2/8 notes equal a triplet. It's the same thing as long short or swinging the eighth notes. And that's not exact. It's not exactly a triplet. You feel this. So instead of counting at 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, we count it 1 and 2 and 3. So we swing the count. So and only the eighth notes, nothing else. So at the beginning it would be 1 and 2. Don't forget the staccatos. Nice light wrist staccato. idea. Just swing it. Just a nice, easy going da 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 da. As long as you feel it, your shorts may not always be the same length. It's what you feel in that particular situation. Now, we need to smooth this out a little bit, so we'll add the pedal, but we don't want it to bog us down. So they're trying to keep the pedal simple for you, so there are a lot of it, they're just overlapping either 2 times per measure. Occasionally it might be an individual beat. But I'd like to make some suggestions. So we're going to do lag pedaling. That is the notes go down first and then the pedal. So it's here at the beginning, it's here. And then when you change it, you push the note down and then change the pedal. And lift it on the staccatos so they can be staccatos. So at the beginning, here they're saying overlap. If I do that, this is what you get. Now, if that's okay with you, go with it. I don't have a problem with it, but experiment with the pedal. If you lift it up occasionally, what happens? It's like, here, there's a comma there. Do I want to split that or not? I don't know. See, it's like in the second line, last measure. I mean, I didn't pedal the last 2 beats, so so that's clean. I did that as a staccato. I didn't say to, but I'm a rebel. See, and all this, I didn't pedal any of that because I don't want to smear it. And at the end of the 3rd line there, that's a new phrase, so I pedal accordingly. I lift the pedal with the right hand on the phrase, so it's and on the last line I'm pedaling each of the first 2 beats, and then I don't pedal the last 2. You can adjust the pedaling after you get comfortable enough with it. And one time you'll play it one way and another time you'll play it another, so you don't have to play it the same way. It's just however you feel like playing it at that time. Experiment with it, have fun with it. Now when you get over to page 24, and the 3rd line down where you're finishing this part off, now this part is a contrast to the other, so this part can be a little more legato, so you may want to pedal a little more on this. Too mushy for you, and I think it is, then don't pedal quite so much. Lift the pedal up or change it more often. Get rid of the mushiness. Yeah, it's a matter of listening. Page 25. Change it here and here and here. Each beat in that last measure, the 1st line, each beat, just like they're showing, is fine. Another style in this kind of music, and you get this all over. Let's just pick a spot here. Well, let's go back to the beginning and look at that. It's the same thing. This introduction. A lot of times on those 8th notes, they'll play those staccatos, so you have to lift the pedal for it. It's an interpretive thing. If you don't like that effect, then don't do it that way, but it's something to think about as you're going through this. Go down to the bottom of the page on page 23. The last two measures, you're here. See, I'm putting in some staccatos, and when I do that, I got to lift the pedal so I can hear the staccatos. So I'm adjusting the pedal accordingly is what I'm getting at. So let's go back to the bottom of page 25. Your last line, you see. Last measure, this is overlap here. Just blend up, blend up. The molto retardando means slow down a lot. So it's, and it gets softer. And then lift the pedal in the hands at the same time. Now on this molto retardando, I suggest you only do that the last time. It doesn't say that, but I suggest you do. See, this is repeated. You repeat. Go back to the beginning, the top of page 23, and you do it all again for the second verse. So when you finish the first verse, I wouldn't slow down too much here. It's just... And I wouldn't put in the fermata. I just go ahead and just keep the beat going. And then the second time you play it, now you're in it. There you're ending it. Slowly and softly and all that junk. When we do the play with me thing, I'm not going to repeat it. I'm just going to play it one time because I don't want to have to deal with the page turn. Page turn can be a problem because you got to be able to turn the page without messing up the beat. Sometimes you have to leave out notes. Sometimes you have to make adjustments. And this thing, at the bottom of page 23, you're here. You have to lift up the right hand on that, maybe just like an eighth note or something on that half note. That gives you time to turn the page with your right hand while your left hand is there, because you don't have much time. You got to do it quickly. Now when you repeat it and go back at the end, you can take a little more time to turn the page if you need to, and then start it again. However, on the play with me thing, and for this video, I'm going to do page 23 and then stop, turn the page and count in again and do the rest of it. And I like to do that now. If you'd like to play along, one hand at a time or so, just double check your notes and rhythms. That's fine. I'm not going to do any dynamics, but I just want to check notes and rhythms. So I'm going to count in 4 beats and then start. 1 and 2 and ready and go, and 1 and 2. Turn the page. 1, 2, ready and go, and 1 and